Hi everyone, welcome to 5DT with me. I wanted to say happy National Wellness Month for August. There are so many things actually going on this month and so much going on that I almost didn't know exactly what I wanted to talk about with you today. But then one of my students actually pulled me aside after class and we were having a conversation and something very important came up and just kind of continues to keep subtly coming up in conversation, but also just in things that I'm hearing, signs, synchronicities, all of those things over the last week or so. So I want to talk about consistency, and it's really important for us to think about consistency, not just in our mindfulness practice, not just with our meditation, but in all aspects of life, okay? So if we're talking about exercise, if we're talking about eating healthy and being conscious of our diet and what we're putting into ourselves and nourishing our body temple with, whether it is how we are showing up in our relationships, whether it is maybe something having to do with your studies because you're a student of life or you're a student of academia right now, or you're going back to be a student right now, or so many other things. I mean, skincare, all of the things that we need to do for ourselves, self-care practices that if we're not consistent with those things, if we don't continually do them, if everyday ritual or a weekly ritual or a monthly to-do or whatever it is, depending upon what you have in front of you at that moment, it's the consistency that is going to drive the results. And this particular student was expressing to me that she was so sorry she hadn't seen me in several weeks, and that the stress of her job had kind of gotten back and wiggled into her mental health, and she felt the need to come back, but she had only left because of the fact that she was feeling so good from all of our meditation practices together. And so I just want to impress upon everyone that when you step into the mindfulness space, when you begin to meditate, when you begin to do breath work, when you begin to do all the mindfulness exercises and self-awareness and self-care practices that you've implemented into your personal transformation journey, it's very important that you stay consistent with those. Now, I'm going to talk specifically about meditation for a moment, but this can translate into a lot of other things as well. But, statistically, research has shown that a consistent mindfulness practice over 60 days is when we start to see changes in the brain, which means whether or not you're relying upon a class or a meditation practitioner like myself to guide you through things, whether you're on an app, whether you're doing things for yourself at home, it's so powerful because we have the power to heal ourselves. We have the power to literally heal our own brains. And if you've been following this channel for any length of time, or you've been following any of the 5DTs with me, you've heard me say this before, but I can't say it enough. You have the power to heal your brain. So after 60 days of consistent practice, what starts happening is the amygdala starts to shrink and the hippocampus begins to go back toward its original size, especially depending upon obviously how much trauma, how many experiences, whatever we've had going on have affected those areas of the brain. And then also the neural pathways that meditation can influence begin to connect, they begin to grow, okay? This is super important. We are literally making new connections in our brain as a result of a consistent mindfulness and meditation practice. Like, mind-blowing, literally, okay? So people wonder why I'm so passionate about all this stuff, and people wonder why I'm so into it. This is why, okay? So on those times or on those days when you feel like, nah, I'm good, I don't need it right now. I'm feeling really great, or I'm in a great place, or I feel like I'm in flow, or whatever that is. I just want to remind you of a couple of things. And this is what I said to my student, which is, in the peaks and in the valleys of life, this too shall pass. So it's actually more important for you to be doing your practice when you're feeling good, when you're at your best. Because what's going to ultimately happen is this too shall pass, whether that's in a day's time, an hour's time, a week's time, a month's time, years down the road. And you're going to want to have that practice to fall back on in the times when, okay, now we're going back down into a valley, or my mental health is beginning to be affected by my job, or my mental health is beginning to be affected by X, Y, and Z, okay? So it's really, really important that you not only stay consistent with your practice as a result of the fact that you are healing yourself, but simultaneously because you're literally setting yourself up for success as you move further and further through your life. Now, we're moving into a really powerful time of this month. And one of the things that I always notice for myself, but I notice for others too, is when I need to be meditating the most is actually when I'm avoiding it the most, okay? Now, I'm very self-aware about this, so I've been able to bring my practice back into alignment time and time and time again. But for a lot of you out there who are just kind of dipping your toe in the water, you're not really sure if this is totally for me or whatever, I just want you to know that when you are most avoiding your practice is usually always when you need it the most, okay? So, in fact, by the way, I am going to be going and meditating as a result of a lot of things that are going on in my world right now. I had a pending move, and then the buyers backed out on the contract, and yet I still have tons of showings on my place, and I've got other things going on in the background when it comes to work. And then I've got a wildfire up the street from my house, which is creating a lot of stress for a lot of people. Fortunately, I was not evacuated, but the air quality here has been horrible. And so my animals haven't been able to go outside, which is creating a lot of tension in the dynamic of the household. And so there's just a lot of stuff going on. And I'm like, I just need to gain some of that quiet time, but also that time, right? The time that we gain when we're in our meditative space. Now, I want to talk a little bit about some of the other things that are going on this month. So this is a little bit of a segue, but I'm going to bring it back to our consistency. I promise I won't go on too much of a tangent. Astrologically, and I'm not an astrologer, but astrologically, there are a ton of things going on. So if you're on socials right now and you're picking up on any of what the discussion is around Lionsgate, then you probably are in tune with the fact that there's a lot going on. So between planets being aligned and the sun being in Leo, and we just came off of a new moon, the Lionsgate portal is at its apex on 8/8. That will last until the 12th. And Mercury's in retrograde as of the 5th. So again, so many things. And when all of these astrological events are coming into play, a lot of times, especially if we're not aware that they're happening, we're going to see a lot of emotional kind of peaks and valleys, a lot of things being stirred up. You know, with Mercury in retrograde, we're going to see continued delays on things. Maybe you're having to redo things. Maybe your travel plans are being affected. Maybe there's a level of communication where it's not hitting. All of these things are kind of happening all at once. And it can feel overwhelming, and not necessarily in a bad way, because all of this is made to bring all of the things forward for us that we've either been avoiding or we've been working on, or patterns in our lives, or things that as our aligned purpose here on earth in life, we're supposed to be addressing as our spiritual being is having a human existence. And so none of these things are necessarily bad, but as an example, I've been having really, really bad headaches for the last 3 days in particular. And it's just because there's just so much going on. And I'm also heavily influenced by the moon. So my sleep patterns are off and I'm either not sleeping at all or I am sleeping for lengths and periods of time that are very unusual for me. And I think the biggest thing that we all need to remember and to understand as we all travel through this, because we don't have a choice, we're all experiencing it, is the fact that consistency is key when it comes to your practices during these kinds of times. Because again, that's what's going to carry you through. As these emotional waves come and kind of embrace you and engulf your life, as long as you have your outlet, as long as you have your ability to realign and recenter yourself at your fingertips, and you know exactly what to do and exactly how to support yourself, you're gonna be fine. Like, it's all good, right? So I just wanna remind you that during this time, as we move into Lionsgate, which by the way, for those of you who don't know what Lionsgate is all about, especially on the apex on 8/8, it's considered a portal, which is a spiritual term, whereby it is literally one of the most potent times where you can be manifesting, okay? So if you need to be consistent in your meditation, if you need to be consistent with your mindfulness activities, if you need to be consistent with your breath work, if you need to be consistent in your self-care, if you want to have consistency around whatever rituals or ceremonies you like to do it, okay? Support yourself, nourish yourself, be there for yourself. Lean into the consistency of your self-care and all of the things that you have included in that in order to get you through this time. Because that's what's going to make this a more peaceful time. That's what's going to make this a more productive time. That's what's going to make this a more nourishing time, even if it's about learning hard lessons, and ultimately gets you out and onto the other side. So I encourage you, tap into the apps, go to a class. Always feel free, like you can reach out to me if you want to set up a session, if you want to talk about a program so that you stay consistent and I'm your accountability partner through it for 12 weeks. Whatever it is you want to do, stay consistent. Be your own manager, right? Make sure that you are taking accountability and responsibility and being self-disciplined as much as you can, because right now is not only a crazy time astrologically, but there's so much that's starting to go on starting in August. If you're a parent, kids are going back to school. Then we're moving into another big holiday weekend to close out the summer. Then we've got all of the fall things starting to happen that include the holidays and then closing out the end of the year, and things just get chaotic. I mean, from November on, it's like, you know, try making plans with anyone, try making things happen outside of the holidays, and it's really, really tough because everybody's caught up in their stuff, whether it's buying gifts, whether it's getting dinners ready, whether it's bringing people together, whether it's closing out the year end at work, you know, whatever it is, it's just a crazy, crazy time. So this is literally the best time for you to make the decision that I'm going to start holding myself accountable. I'm going to start being disciplined about my practice, and I'm going to make sure that I maintain that through the remainder of the year, through the craziness of all the things that are coming up that we are on the heels of right now. So I'm here. If you need anything, our community is here to support you. And if there's anything else you want to talk about, if there's anything else you want me to talk about, please let me know. And until next time, namaste.